So Rome is really big and powerful for a long time, but no empire lasts forever, and Rome comes to an end in the year 476. And today I'm just going to briefly discuss some of the events that lead up to that. You'll notice that today's words are almost all names. Diocletian is an emperor, Constantine is an emperor, you should remember from last time. Constantinople is a city, I think that's the only city in here. The Huns, the Visigoths, and the Vandals are all groups of people. Attila the Hun is a person, and Romulus Augustulus is a person as well. Alright, so let's go over here and start off with Diocletian. So, before the fall of the Roman Empire, Diocletian is an emperor that sees that, in his opinion, the empire is too big. It's too big, it's too complicated, and he sees this as a problem. He sees this as leading to bad things for Rome, that it's just too unwieldy for one emperor to rule, so he splits it up. The formula he uses, the way he does it is really complicated, and we don't have to get into all the different little divisions that he does. In a nutshell, think of it this way. He divides it in half, and you see the red line right here. So he divides it, Diocletian divides the empire into the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire. Each one is going to have its own emperor. So each half will have an emperor that will rule over it, and he thinks that that'll make it easier to rule, that'll preserve the Roman way of life. This is going to be really significant in 476 when we talk about the fall of the Roman Empire, because when we do that, in all honesty, we're only talking about the fall of the Western Roman Empire. This Western Roman Empire here is going to break apart into 1,000 pieces. The Eastern Roman Empire endures. It stays around for a long time. We, in history, don't call it the Roman Empire anymore. We call it the Byzantine Empire, but they called themselves the Roman Empire, and these guys are going to be around for a while. So really, when we talk about the fall of Rome in this context, we're talking about the fall of the Western Roman Empire, but whatever, you can call it the fall of Rome if you want. So Diocletian does that. He thinks that he's helped safeguard Rome for a long time. Then we've got our friend Constantine, who we discussed as the first Christian Roman emperor. He's the one that stops persecuting Christians. He's an important figure in a number of respects, and just one other one is that he builds a new capital city, Constantinople, and that is in the east. It's right here. You see right here it's called Byzantium, but he builds a new, bigger and better city there, names it after himself, Constantinople, and he moves his seat of power there. This is where he rules from. And it's important because it really just sort of helps to signal that the real power and the real, economic dynamism is all going to be in the east. So Diocletian divides it, and then Constantine sets up shop over here, just sort of signaling that the real good stuff in terms of, the economy and politics and everything, that over here is strong, and over here is getting less so. Your DBQ gets into some of the other things that are happening now, that a lot of the rich Romans weren't really paying their taxes. The army isn't as well equipped or motivated as maybe it could be. Add into that the arrival of what the Romans are going to call barbarians. Now, the Romans called any group of people barbarians if they didn't speak Latin. So they weren't really multicultural. They were a little judgmental back then. And the three groups of barbarians that I want you to know for today are the Huns, the Visigoths, and the Vandals. Now the Huns, they come from Asia. They're led by Attila the Hun, their great war leader. And they really are like stereotypical barbarians. They look like these guys here. They're riding on horses. They're kind of mean to the people that they conquer. And who knows, Attila the Hun might have been able to conquer all of Europe, but he dies while he's doing that, while he is conquering Europe, and then the Huns aren't really able to hold together after he's gone. Partially because the Huns are coming in from over here and invading, that pushes these other, again, barbarians, according to the Romans, people that lived sort of up in this area, past the Roman frontier, that the fact that the Huns are here being big and bad pushes those guys down, and they start invading Italy as well, in the Roman Empire. And those are the Visigoths and the Vandals. The Romans have known these guys for a while. They would even sometimes hire them to be mercenaries for the Romans. But what starts happening now is the Roman army is so weak, and these guys see that the Visigoths and the Vandals start taking stuff from the Romans. And eventually it gets so bad that the barbarians sack Rome. That is to say, they, as you can see in this picture here, they actually attack and invade Rome, the former capital city itself, and steal a bunch of stuff. So things have gotten really bad for the formerly center of the world, Rome. Now these barbarians with their funny hats and their big beards are actually coming in and attacking the city itself. There's a long period of time where the barbarians attack Rome but don't officially sort of overthrow it or destroy it, but that ends with Romulus Augustulus. He's the last, Romulus, he's the last Roman emperor, and what happens is Odoacer, this guy right here, this barbarian, he's just one particular barbarian chief. He invades Italy. He overthrows the emperor. Nothing new there. The barbarians had been doing that for a while now, but when the Visigoths or the Vandals would do that and they would overthrow a Roman emperor, they would appoint another one. Odoacer does not. Odoacer gets rid of Romulus Augustulus, and then he is not replaced. So this guy is the last Roman emperor. This guy just says, well, I'm just ruler of Italy now, but I don't care about the rest of it because I'm just a barbarian that only cares about ruling what I'm near. So at that point, the Western Roman Empire is officially just split up. The different barbarian tribes, the Visigoths, the Vandals, there are others as well, they rule over their particular part of Europe that they conquered, and that's it. And that's going to be it for a long time. Europe is never really unified again throughout, as they are under the Roman Empire. Really throughout all of history, the European Union we have now is as close as you can get, and even that's not one political entity. So this is really the end of a politically unified Europe. So there are lots of different historical theories as to exactly how Rome went from being so powerful to being so weak, and those include just the fact that the invaders came in. They did better than Rome, you know what I mean? It's one of those any given Sundays, hey, on the battlefield, they happened to beat them, so that's what happened. Lead poisoning is one thought. The Romans used lead pipes with all of their water and plumbing, and so the thought is that's not good for you to be drinking a lot of lead. So the thought is that there was sort of a general decline in people's intellect because they were drinking too much lead in the water. Who knows? Maybe. There's a thought that there was a general coarsening of culture, that people didn't care about important things anymore. All they cared about was, having a good time, and that left them, vulnerable to decay. The economy certainly wasn't good. They also had a lot of diseases. Maybe that had something to do with it. One prominent theory, which is sort of interesting, is that since the Roman Empire converted to Christianity and they didn't, worship these warrior gods anymore that were all about fighting and violence, that made Rome more vulnerable to being conquered. There are books written about that. Rome did have a lot of slaves, and there's a thought that they relied too much on that, so they didn't develop their economy in the way that economies ought to be developed, and certainly there are political failings. Your DBQ sort of deals with that, so I don't want to get too much into that. I don't want to give anything away. So this is just the broadest of overviews of how the Roman Empire fell.